is when someone does not speak out their problems, okay? When they don't behave the way they're supposed to behave, okay? And we describe it as age-related behaviors, okay? Age-appropriate behaviors. What will you expect of a child? We have a child here, and we brought this child here for a reason. Did you see how the mother was dealing with this child? Yeah. Occasionally, she was giving her the mic to speak, okay? This is a child, okay? And we consider that age-appropriate behavior. But what if one of the adults came here and starts saying, give me a mic, and starts behaving like that? What will come to your mind? You will definitely know that there is a problem with their mental health. So mental health problems, we can say that. It does not mean that those who have mental health problems are in the hospitals, okay? Of course, we have the major mental illnesses, okay? Which will prompt us to take them to the health facilities. But most of us have some mental problems. We have some emotional problems, okay? We have some physical problems, which actually impact on our mental health. So, when you feel loved, that is why we are saying that. When you feel loved, that is the first step to healing our mental health problems. And that is why we are talking about love. And normally love is provided where? In a relationship. And that is equals to good mental health. And once you know that you have good mental health, then we can now talk about the criteria for mental health. There's someone who said, is it Roslyn? Roslyn, you talked about someone who has sound mind. When you have sound mind, you can be able to know the time, you know yourself, okay? And everything that comes with that. You can be able to make good interactions and so forth. So, what defines a loving, healthy relationship is what I want to look at. We have already looked at the two verses which guide us. I want us to look at the perspectives, the stories in the Bible, which give us stories of people who had problems, but they were supported, and it came out to be a beautiful story, okay? Just because of love, just because of people stayed. And I want you to know that sometimes you see people smiling. So you have seen a lot of depression, like so-and-so committed suicide. It didn't start that day. It starts way before, okay? And when someone does not get help, because there is no one who is showing love, then they make a decision to take their lives, okay? So I want us to look at the book of Ruth. The book of Ruth, chapter 1. I don't want us to read it, but I'll summarize it. But just open the book of Ruth. Ruth, chapter 1. We are going to focus mainly on chapter 16 and 17, but the story is about the whole book of, the whole chapter. The book of Ruth talks about a woman called Naomi. Anyone called Naomi here? Naomi? Good. So most of you are going to know what your names mean from the Bible, or who you relate to the Bible. Anyone called Ruth? Ruth? And then we have Orpah. Is it Orpah? Orpah. I know it's Orpah. This is Orpah, but this is I'm talking about Orpah, the person called Orpah in the Bible. These are the three women who are described in the book of Ruth, chapter 1. So Naomi, I want to summarize it. Naomi moved with her family from Bethlehem. Naomi was married, but moved with her family to Bethlehem when there was a famine. There was a famine in Judah, in Bethlehem. So they moved to Judah to Moab during a famine. So while in Moab, her husband died and her two sons married Moabite women. We have Naomi, okay, who moved, but then the husband died. So she became a widow. But Naomi had two sons, okay? These two sons married Moabite women. One of the women was called Ruth, the other one was called Orpah, okay? Unfortunately, the husbands of the daughter-in-laws of Naomi also died, Okay? So, when the daughter-in-laws of Naomi were also widowed, now Naomi became desperate and said, I'm in far away from home, okay? I came here with my family, but the Lord has left me. Now I'm empty. So as she was mourning the death of her sons and even husband, she heard that where they came from, there is now food, okay? The famine at least has cleared and so forth. So Naomi thought, now what am I doing here? I've lost my husband. I've lost my sons. But then she had a problem. She had the daughter-in-laws. You know, they had no children, okay, when their husbands also died. So she said, now what will I do with these children? Just like, it's just like in our normal society. She told them, my children, I want you to go back to your homes, okay? But then they tried to tell Naomi that we are not going to leave you. We will stay with you. But she insisted that you have to go back. I don't have a husband. Even if I said I'm going to deliver a son to marry you again, that will not happen. I don't want to hold you. Go back to your homes and to your traditions. Orpah tried, but just gave up and went back. But the daughter-in-law, Ruth, did not give up. Who can read for us the book of Ruth 1:16-17? So that we can see what Ruth told Naomi. Please give the microphone. I don't know.
Ruth chapter 1 verse 16 says, but Ruth said, entreat me not to leave you, or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you launch, I will launch. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. 17, where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me. 18, when she saw that she was determined to go with her, she stopped speaking to her.
Thank you. So, that verse, I know some of us who are married, did you take marriage vows in your weddings? Did you know the origin of those marriage vows? It's from Ruth, okay? Who told Naomi that, entreat me not to leave thee, okay? Or to return from the following after thee. I'm reading the King James Version. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God shall be my God. Where thou diest, I will die, and there I will be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me. Okay? So Ruth decided to stay with Naomi. You see, Naomi was getting old. She saw that these young ladies will waste their lives. Okay? Let me release them to go. And she said she will be okay. But Ruth knew that Naomi will not be okay. This woman does not have relatives. She will get old and die even before. She may even die before her time. She needs support. She needs love. Okay? She needs to be in good mental health so that maybe God will hear her at some point. Okay? So, Naomi accepted that Ruth stays. And then they moved together with Naomi to their land. So, I know there's a story there you will finish reading. When they went back, there was a relative of Naomi who was called Boaz. Later on, so many things happened, and then Boaz married Ruth, okay? And then they bore a son. And then, of course, together, they were the great-grandparents of the great king of the great King David. Okay? You know the story of King David. So, look at this story. Okay? What could have happened if Ruth could have left? Naomi was saying, I'm okay. You go and make your lives. Okay? What could have happened? What do you think could have happened? Naomi could have gone into depression. Okay? Maybe because of the age. Okay? Maybe she could have not reached their land, their home. Okay? We could not be reading about Naomi. Okay? But because somebody knew that, okay, knew that depression can be in smiles, okay? People can smile. Sometimes you call people, how are you? Because of the technology we have currently. You are so lost. Where are you? I'm okay, okay? Someone is smiling from the other end, okay? Depression can be in that, I'm okay, okay? So we ought to do more. We need to insist. We need to be persistent so that we can recognize mental health, okay? Besides, there is a lot of stigma, okay, with mental health, you know? People do not want to accept that I'm depressed because the symptoms of depression come in different ways in many people. But those who are close can know that even if you are saying you are okay, you are not okay. So that is one story, and we are going to have a discussion on that later on, or the story of Ruth and Naomi. And that is the book of Ruth is the basis of the marriage vows which people normally take. So look at your vows which you took. Are the people you said will be your people, still your people? Ama unaenda tu tunawaambia, mimi amwezi kunishtua, I'm married, okay? Yeah, I'm not married to you. So many things happen. Look at where the origin of our marriage vows is, so that we can have respect to the families where we go, so that those people can be physically and even mentally healthy. Another story is the story of David and Jonathan, okay? It's the Bible story of friendship, the story of friendship. So that is in the book of Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 16. 1 Samuel chapter 16. In this story, we get King Saul, who was jealous of the young man David. You see, David is coming again. King Saul was jealous of the young man David. And this was partially because David was gaining a lot of popularity. Okay? David was gaining a lot of popularity and was destined to become the king of where? The king of Israel. So, because God had told Saul that his kingdom could not continue, so Samuel had already anointed David as the next king. That is in 1 Samuel 16, before David killed Goliath. That is in chapter 17. So Saul's anger toward David mounted with the passing years. So even though Jonathan knew his father hated David and that David could become the next king of Israel, Jonathan and David became good friends. Why do you think Jonathan became good friends with David? Because Jonathan is the one, I'm doing a summary of that. Jonathan was the one who had the sword. But he knew that God had anointed David to be the next king. Okay? So, why do you think Jonathan became a good friend to David? Because according to 1 Samuel 13, we are told that there were only 2 swords in the kingdom. King Saul owned one, and his son Jonathan had the other. So when David was preparing to flee from Saul, Jonathan gave his sword to David. You see? That is friendship, okay? Because Jonathan knew the father did not like David, but God had already anointed David. So Jonathan knew that even if I become the king, okay, God has not anointed me, okay? So he decided to support David, okay? So logically, Jonathan could actually become the next king of Israel. But he knew God's hand was on David. So he chose to help the man who God had anointed instead of fighting him out of jealous. Like, I'm the first son, I'm what? Is that familiar in our current situation? Yeah. Maybe if, for example, a father sees that my son or my daughter is capable of doing this, you know? Fathers sometimes know. And maybe so-and-so has a talent in doing this. Do we support them? Or we kind of water them down, okay? So that is a story of becoming friends and becoming support. And that is one of the characteristics of love. The final story I want us to look at is the story of the Good Samaritan. See, everybody knows the story of the Good Samaritan? We know the story of the Good Samaritan, okay? And that is a parable, okay? Which book is it found, that story? You can read for us that story. Luke 10. Someone read for us the book of Luke 10. Sit 9.
Luke 10:25. And behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tested him, saying, Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? He said to him, What is written in the law? What is your reading of it? So he answered and said, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And he said to him, You have answered rightly. Do this, and you will live. But he, wanting to justify himself, said to Jesus, And who is my neighbor? And Jesus answered and said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves, who stripped him of his clothing, wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. Now, by chance, a certain priest came down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. Likewise, a Levite, when he arrived at the place, came and looked and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. So he went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine, and he set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. On the next day, when he departed, he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said to him, Take care of him, and whatever more you spend, when I come again, I'll repay you. So which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to him who fell among the thieves? And he said, He who showed mercy on him. And Jesus said to him, Go and do likewise.
Thank you. Amen. That is now the story of the Good Samaritan, where a Jewish man who was beaten and left for death was actually helped by a Levite. Okay? You see, the people who came from the same area, the Jewish, did not help this man. But the man was helped by the Good Samaritan, a passersby who was a what? Who was from a different clan. So, who is our neighbor? Our neighbor is anyone who needs our help, okay? So, it doesn't have to come from the same family as ours. We have seen people who have been forsaken by their families, but we can be their neighbors, we can be their families, and provide love and help. So, having seen those stories from the Bible, so what constitutes a healthy and loving relationship? What constitutes a healthy and loving relationship? From the story of Naomi, yes, sister, I'll give you time to after this. We have looked at Ruth, okay? According to the story of Ruth and Naomi, we can see that real love is powerful. Real love is powerful, okay? So, receiving real love can eliminate feelings of loneliness okay, rejection, and even isolation. Just like the case of Naomi, okay? Ruth clung with Naomi and removed all this, okay? That real love is also unconditional. Real love is also unconditional, okay? Unconditional, what does unconditional mean? It means that you are going to help irrespective, okay, of any other factors, okay, without any condition. So I believe we can be able, from these stories, we can be able to actually relate with one of the stories and see that love transcends all, okay? And it's the greatest commandment of all. So I want us to move to the next discussion, where we are going to look at the common characteristics of health, relationship, and also the benefits of love in mental health. I want to welcome Sister Leah to lead us through this discussion. Thank you.
What do we say to our speaker? Yes. To be honest, I was ambushed to participate today, but it was two things that we live through every day. We've talked about love, and there's no one right description for love. There's no one right description for mental health. But one thing that we have to agree that those are two things that are very powerful, yet we can't see them. Can you see love? Can you be able to, you can sometimes be able to tell whether there's love between two people, but can you be able to tell it's unconditional? Can you be able to tell it's real unless you are those two people? And how about mental health? We've talked about a sound mind and what a sound mind means. Can you be able to tell people are of sound mind in the congregation? Yeah, it's scary though. The fact that we do not know if we are all of sound mind. So we have heard what love is, what love looks like in the Bible. We've talked about the love of Ruth and Naomi. And we can see also the love that Ruth had for her husband that extended to her mother-in-law. So I can say so romantic. We've looked at romantic love of sorts. We've looked at love of a mother and a child, regardless of the fact that they were not biological. You've looked at a love between friends, Jonathan and David. You've looked at love between strangers, the story of the Good Samaritan. So love, there's no one box that you can put love in. There's no one description that you can. Okay, just say.
Dinosaur.
Okay, now you can go. She wanted to say that. Now you can go sit. So now what I want us to discuss is unconditional love. She mentioned unconditional love. Who feels like there is someone they love unconditionally? You can raise your hand. There's someone you love unconditionally. Who is this that you love unconditionally?
From the three stories we have heard, I can see the love unconditional. That first I start with love with condition, like Naomi. Naomi's love was conditioned, not Ruth, because Naomi knew that he has nothing, nobody. Her name is finished. And you remember even when they had Obed, what did the Naomi do? Anachukua huyo mtoto anamweka kwa mapaja yake na anafurahi. Na that child alikwenda na jina la Naomi, sio cha Ruth. Ruth was only that she accepted to go with Naomi. She had a real love, but she didn't have condition and she didn't have mental health. Naomi had.
Mental health issues.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I did not expect that to come up. But you say that you love someone unconditionally. Is there someone in your life you love unconditionally?
It should be your child.
Should be?
Your child.
Should be your child?
Yeah.
Is it for you? Is it mom?
It is a mom who will love the child unconditional and wondered when he gets and she will know. Akiwa na mental problem atajua upesi kabisa kwamba iko na stress huyu mtoto. Mama anajua kwa sababu anampenda, and she will not hate that child because of that. And this I was not talking to the child. I was talking to the Bible study which we have got there. That Naomi alikuwa na mental health problem. Alafu Ruth hakuwa nayo, alimpenda, alikuwa na really love kwa sababu alimpenda. In fact hakujua atapata atapata huyu bwana. Akipata mtoto yule Obed, Naomi alimchukua akasema amekuwa kwa mapaja yangu, akafurahi, sasa wanawake watanipenda. Unaona ile condition Naomi alikuwa yeye alikuwa na ile stress, alikuwa na mental health problem. Alafu Ruth hakuwa nao. Sasa tuende ya mwisho ambao hakuwa nayo, the Good Samaritan. That one hakuwa na mental condition, hakuwa na mental health problem. Alitengeneza yule mtu, akamweka, akampeleka, and then he told him, hii nimekupa, when I come back kama ametumia nitalipa. He did not have anything he will earn from yule nini. Hiyo ndio sababu Yesu alitoa kama ilikuwa hiyo, ilikuwa hadithi, haikuwa na kitu kizuri. Hakuna mtu anaweza, alitoa maisha yake na hakufikiria huyu Myahudi atamsaidia. So nilikuwa na hao wawili, ambaye yule hakuwa na mental health na Naomi alikuwa na.
Thank you. At least we've seen a perspective that there are some people who had mental health issues in that story. But the other thing she's brought out is the Good Samaritan had unconditional love to a stranger, meaning he knew he's getting nothing out of helping this person, and he said, whatever it is, I will help, but I do not expect anything. The other question, any of us with unconditional love towards someone? Unconditional love. Is there someone you love unconditionally in your life? People are not very confident, including my own parents. Clearly, they don't love me unconditionally. It's very conditional. Okay, even me, I have not raised my hand. Sasa tuko same. Anyone? Okay. If you don't have anyone you love unconditionally in your life, have you ever seen a love that you thought was unconditional, and how did it look like? Ushaiona story ukasema enyewe, this one was unconditional love between human beings, husband and wife, mother and child? Is there anyone you ever saw a story and you thought this must be unconditional love?
I think mine is not a story, but it is real. One time in our family, I was called to go and sit and discuss about my elder sister. So my brothers had ganged against my sister, and Mom called me. So we sat down. They narrated all that they thought about my sister. And then Mom said, you people, before Mary speaks, are you done? Then they said yes. Then my mom said, look at me. And she told my brothers, do you see this breast? Is where you suck and is where she suck. So, if you think you are better than her, then I think you should remove this one and clear your mouth from my milk. So the case ended like that. So I think that is unconditional love.
So you think your mom had unconditional love towards her children, towards her child, towards her children. So your mom is an example. Anyone who has witnessed, because she says she witnessed unconditional love, how did it look like?
Good afternoon. I'll just describe it in my opinion. It looks like one. I grew up in a village, and we have this immediate neighbor. It's a family, a husband and wife. Growing up, that was the most abusive marriage I have ever seen. The man was a drunkard, and the wife was not. So the man would come drunk, beat the wife, beat all the children. The children would escape and stay with us over the night and go back tomorrow, the following day. But the funny thing is, every time this man would sometimes drink and fail to find their way home, the woman, now the wife, would take the children and tell them, let's go find your dad. They would look for him. They knew the path he used to use from his alcohol den, pick him up, bring him home, wash him, feed him, he sleeps, and again the circle continues. But this woman never, at least in my time, spoke ill of the husband. She always requested church members to pray for the husband, until one day the husband got converted, and he's an elder in my local church as we speak. So I consider that unconditional, because despite being abused, beaten, and battered, she stuck. She did the best and even prayed for the husband until he got converted. In my opinion, that was an unconditional.
Amen to that. And we see the power of unconditional love, although I cannot admit that it will work every time. But that is quite a good example of what unconditional love can do, what the lady did over and over and over again, without fail, without discouragement, because I don't believe it was one time. I believe it was years and years and years of doing that before he actually changed, before the love changed him. I don't know if that happens majority of the time or that's an exception, but it is quite a good example of just the power that unconditional love can do. Anyone else who's ever seen something they believe was unconditional love? If not, have it themselves.
Happy Sabbath. Mine is just a twist. I believe all parents have unconditional love towards their kids. When you talk of unconditional love, this is a love with no strings attached. You don't expect anything in return from your kids. Now, for our kids, up to a certain age, they still have unconditional love for us. I have two, so I can say I've witnessed both. My son is still young, so sometimes I can beat him because of one or two things, but still he'll come back to me. But my daughter, it has reached a point whereby sometimes she just wakes up and she doesn't want to talk to you. It's not like she doesn't love you, but it's because of the age limit. So for the parents, the love is unconditional because it will go on and on. But for our kids, it's a twist at some point in their life.
Thank you. For me, I feel like I get your point, but parents here were not raising their hands. Sasa CBC wa believe it is unconditional. What wa raise mkono and say, Mimi, with my children, it's unconditional. And it's true, it's human. It's human nature to always have expectations at the back of your mind. Even parents, you never have expectations until when they're older, you're like, but I took care of you. Why can't you take care of me? That stops being unconditional because now it has expectations, right? Unconditional would be, I took care of you because I love you and it doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter if you're earning millions and you decide to not give me that. But we're human beings. But children, on the other hand, when they're younger, I say it's true. Because children before they're corrupted, I say corrupted by the world, my child thinks I'm tall. She thinks I am strong. She also clearly has not met tall people. So the eyes of a child is very simplistic, very innocent, and when they're born they know you, so they just love you. Until now, as they grow older, as their emotions mature, now they start getting the same conditions that that we also have as we grow older. But when they're young, that's why mommy is the best, daddy is the strongest, we are the richest, we are the smartest. And anything you tell them, you cannot convince them otherwise, because they have that unrequited love for their parents. So clearly, unconditional love is rare to find, as we can tell from the hands, or most people who've seen it are shy, perhaps. But one thing now I can ask is, fine, not unconditional, but true love. The love that is described in the Bible, the love that the Christ describes for us, the love that he expects that we should have for one another. Characteristics means that, what do you think that love should look like? What things should be between these two people? And I will start with one characteristic is, I think if there is true love, if there is mutual love, meaning we both love each other, whatever whatever kind of love that is, whether it is romantic love, whether it is love between siblings, between friends, between parent and child, I believe if it is true love, if it is good love, there should be trust. There should be trust in that I love you and I trust that you love me. And because I trust in this love, I trust that your intentions will always be because there is love. So that whatever happens, I know and I trust that because there is love between us. That, like Isaac, and it's Isaac, right? The one who was going to get... No, not in the stories we've said. So you're telling me wrong answers. Let me move. No, Isaac, the one who was getting sacrificed, is Isaac, right? Yes. Like the trust he had, going up a mountain without sheep, without anything to sacrifice, but because he loves his father and he trusts that his father knows what he's doing, he said, let's go up. Paka nambiwa, okay, now when we've reached here, you know what? You are the sheep. God has told me that I am sacrificing you. And he's like, okay, I trust you. If you say it is truly the Lord, I trust you. So that's kind of love. I believe that if there is true love, there has to be trust. So that is my point. Nimejipe 1 point. So maybe I can hear from the rest of the church. For true love, unconditional or not, but true love, what characteristics do you think should be in that loving relationship, whichever kind of relationship that is? Apart from trust, of course. And maybe matching vitenges. So we all love each other. Leo tumematch vitenge.
I think beside trust, there should also be respect. Yes. I don't know how to describe it, but I know you understand what respect is, don't you, people? Yes. I think, okay, my neighbor seems to be understanding.
I think when you respect somebody, you treat them with dignity. You don't want to embarrass them in public. You treat them with a lot of awe, a lot of high esteem. That's what I think. But before I come to the respect, about trust, we usually tell people, even when they trust, they at least leave some room in case for heartbreak, you know, because anything can happen.
Sasa kiubinadamu inaingia ile, I trust you, but now you see that is not mutual, because if it was mutual, it's the same way I love you, you also love me. And the same way I trust you, you should also trust me. But we're human beings, so I understand. So she's talked about respect, she's talked about, we've talked about trust and respect. Respect meaning when you're in public, you're respecting someone, you address them with respect, you respect their feelings, you respect their opinions. So you respect it by listening, you respect it by adhering sometimes, or you respect it by actually doing certain things in public.
think I would add another characteristic to true love: friendship. When you love someone, he or she should be your friend. Once you're friends, love comes automatically. Friends do anything for each other. Friends step in each other's shoes at all times. Friends will laugh together, sing together, cry together, fail together, succeed together, and with all that, there is love.
Okay, so we've gotten one, friendship, and she said you laugh, you play, you smile together, so I'm hoping you're doing that with your friends and people you love.
I wanted to add on David and Jonathan. They all had the truth friendship. It was really friendship. Because Jonathan was willing to die. Because he was willing to die. Because the father was almost killing him. And he knew, he told him, don't you see that you are going to lose your kingdom. But at the same time, Jonathan expected it to be the second from David. So that he also knew that when David will be a king, I'll be second. So that one also, he had a reason for loving. So you cannot take it like, for the three you have read from the Bible, he actually loved David very much. But he was still expecting something, which he did. He did not know, but he did, because what did David do to the child, Jonathan? So Jonathan had love, but still he had known that he had still the second. He was hoping also to get help from David. So they were friends, but he also had intention. He had something that he will be second. And again, you can see that David also knew he was loving, and he will keep the friendship. Remember when he was asking, is there anybody? He didn't say from Jonathan. He said anybody, any relative here, Saul. Hakusema Jonathan. In fact, he did not know that Jonathan had a lame child, but he wanted just to get to help. That for David alikuwa na true love, but for Jonathan, he was expecting something from David.
So from what I get from her is that another characteristic of love, of true love, is that it will elevate everyone around you. Because of the love that David had for Jonathan, it also helped his family. So the true love sometimes will even transcend generations. Because sometimes you see love between friends, and then I find my friend's son, my friend's daughter, and I help them because of the love I feel for or the friendship I have with their parent. So sometimes what love does is the characteristics that it's able to transcend. It's able to transcend the individuals who have that love to others even around them. Maybe any characteristic of true love?
Thank you. You used the word ambushing. Anyway, thank you for ambushing me. There are quite a number of characteristics of true love. When there is true love, there is the urge to care for the other person. I may not expand on that. I can, but let me just say care for, or be a caring person to the person that you truly love. Offer support. When there is the other person who is maybe you are relating with, needs anything, needs love, needs compassion, needs food, you are able to support that person. Then this is part of true love. Also, in true love, we have our provisions. We have very many requirements in life. If one is ready to provide for what you need, and then that is really true of the same. And then we also look at obedience. You don't disregard, you don't disobey a person you truly love. You obey that person at whichever point in time. Like you've brought in the idea, the story of Isaac. He obeyed everything all through. And even the mother obeyed. And even Jesus obeyed unto the cross. So obedience is part of the true love that we need to also, so that we can display our true love. And sometimes we have various feelings. We've passed through various afflictions. If there is a person who can empathize with you or with the person who is hurting, who is having a feeling, a sickness or something like that, who has lost a loved one or something like that, then we can say that the expression of this is among the few, I can say, the contributions of true love towards that person.
Well, thank you. So we've gotten several points from there. Wale watu walikuwa na kwa class A students wanasema I didn't know that exam. Mtihani kikuja wako na 98. So he was ambushed but came out with very, very many points. So love is compassionate, love is caring, it's very supportive, and it fosters obedience between those two who love each other.
I just want to include these characteristics my very wise said about empathy. If you see the Samaritan person, there is what we call sympathy. You can sympathize, but you cannot do an action. You can just sympathize. Maybe you have somebody has a problem, you just say sorry. However, although when somebody has empathy, he can feel that pain and carry that burden. So in love, you can bear a burden on somebody when in love. Even though a lot of indoctrines are produced, more especially in ladies, when you feel sad, when you feel traumatized. So you need to have even the love at your own expense. You need to have love even at your own expense. You does not need to be so sad. Even though there is sadness, you need to cultivate and work hard so that you can achieve what we call endorphin. When the endorphin is produced, you feel good. Because the Bible says the good art is a good medicine. Good art is good medicine, something of that kind. So you need to feel at yourself. Also, you need to feel well. You need to feel laughing. You need to have laughter at yourself. Because there are some even characteristics of some gentlemen who are not gentlemen, just gentlemen, but by pretense. Because they cannot make laughter when you are around the table. They cannot change the decisions which they have made. They are very tough in decision making. Those are some characteristics of some people who are gentlemen by pretense. So you need to change. That's why we say that unaweza kuwa na gear ya reverse. Even if you are a man, you need to change the decisions you have made. You cannot make tough decisions. So love contains all of this. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. So I can summarize it in empathy. You've emphasized on empathy. Empathy is not kusikia shida alafu naambia guy, wo sasa utadu. That is sympathy. Ile guy sasa. Hiyo ni ukweli, that was bad. But empathy is what will we do? How can I help you? Is how can I help you carry this load? How can we find a solution for this? Then you talked about something that's really important as we transition to the next topic, and I get just a few pointers from the church is self-love. Self-love is very underrated. In all these things, you should always remember that love starts from within. You cannot be able to pour from a cup that is empty. So you're not able to pour that love that will overflow, that will flow to your children and your children's children and your relatives and the strangers if you do not have love for yourself, if you have not filled that cup for yourself. And it is from that point that we can transition is if you don't have self-love, How then can you say that your mental health is up to the top, if when you think of yourself, you don't think of yourself with the same lenses and with the same thoughts as you think about other people? Because some of the other things you'll think about critically is sometimes we're very harsh to ourselves. Most of us are usually very self-critical in that if someone comes with the exact same problem, mtu akuje akwambie, I failed my exam, or I have lost my job, I think I am worthless, I think I am this and this, the first thing you tell them is, no, this is not the end of the world. You're not worthless. There's more to life than a job and whatnot. But if the tables were turned and it is you've lost your job or you failed your exams, how do you talk to yourself? Do you talk to yourself the same way you talk to others, comforting them? You start telling yourself, now, that job was my whole worth. What am I supposed to do now? This is why I fail in life and whatnot. So that is the exact thing that we are talking about when it's love and mental health. You cannot have good mental health if you do not love yourself. And loving yourself starts from the very small things, from waking up in the morning and saying, I love this forehead, I love this hard hair, I love how I look, I love how I feel, I love how I talk, I love myself, I love how I am. I love my imperfections because I am working on them. And then now you come from there, and then you can pour that cup out to your children and say, Mommy, I love how you look today. I love your confidence. Yesterday you did that, but I love how you rose up. You fell, you did not do so well in this time, but I love how you were able to figure it out in the end. And therefore, that is the same way they are going to spread the love out to others. You spread the love to your spouse. You spread the love out to your friends, to your brothers and sisters. So the other thing that we're going to transition to now that we talked about self-love and you're talking about mental health is because all of us, we know what is happening in Kenya today. Everyone is stressed. Pesa hakuna, maisha ni magumu, unga ugali ni 250, sijui mkate ni 100, ama ni 65. So there's a lot of things going on that give us a lot of mental load. What role do you think love has in mental well-being? In good mental health, sound mental health, or just generally mental well-being? And this love is not necessarily romantic love, although can be that, but just love in general, love between your friends, your relatives, your parents, your siblings, your spouse. So where do you think love fits in mental health, mental well-being? What do you think it can do for mental well-being? So sasa nimekuja backbenchers. We have moved to the other side. She was smiling, so give us a point. Any point? Yes, there are no wrong answers. It's a discussion.
What I would say is love can also soften us when we are in hard situations. Because when you are in hard situations, love can give you that. If somebody gives you that love, it will soften you. You will calm down. Any
example? Amy? She doesn't have an example, but I do. When I have a really hard day and I come home, and like her, I'm still at that age where baby is still very happy to see me. When she comes and hugs you, Mommy, you're home. And she's so excited, na mulionana tu saa 3 asubuhi, and it's just 5 p.m. You feel nice. It was a hard day, umeenda na 1,000 and you've come out with 2 things in your trolley and there's no money. But when she does that, you're like, it's not so bad. There's someone who loves me unconditionally at this moment. So it does soften that blow. It does help you when you're very, very stressed to just calm you down and remember that it's not so hard. And you become more objective after that. Anyone else with any point? What do you think love can do to make your mental health better?
Okay, happy Sabbath. Okay, I think that the fact that, as you said, love, sometimes you care. The act of caring to someone, you call someone in the morning, ask them how they feel, how they've woken up, how is the situation there? Even if the economy is hard as it is right now, they feel like, okay, there's someone at least asking how I'm doing, at least someone who insists on knowing whether I've taken some supper, lunch or not. For instance, my parents are away. Then I call them in the evening, hey dad, how are you doing? Did you take some supper? Did you take lunch? Chakula kuna, but ni kidogo, but tumekula. At least they feel belonging. The act of feeling that you belong, someone at least can call on you, that reduces a lot of stress. So if they have something they may share with you, and you give your whatever input you may give, however little it is, I think that goes a long way in saving their mental health. Thank you.
So it helps us get solutions. It helps us get solutions. Once you talk to someone, namwambia ng'ombe iko mgonjwa, namwambia kuna yule veterinary najua mahali, wacha nikupe namba yake. Just now that you said your parents, ama mahindi unawambia nimesikia weather forecast imesema kutakuwa na mvua, sasa weka, I agree. So it can help us get solutions, and that helps your mental well-being. So this row, nominate someone. She's nominated herself. You're very lucky. She's nominated herself. Don't worry, she has saved you. Mumnunulie chai after this.
I think love motivates. When a parent knows their children are waiting for them at home, it will motivate them to work hard, to go the extra mile in order to provide for them. So it motivates.
Okay, straight and to the point. Love motivates, and it works the other way also. I think for children, if you know your parents are out there working hard for you, your parents love you, you're motivated to do better, whether it's at school, at work, wherever it is, you know someone loves you, you're motivated to actually make things better, and sometimes it makes you ignore all the other stresses. This side, backbench, as we wrap up on love and mental health.
Thank you. I think I will make a comment that joins with the last bit of the conversation that we had. And Christ knew that human beings, we will come into a situation where we need something to lean on. And allow me to read 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 to 8. And the Bible says, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. Love protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. So I think what love can do to help us in situations where our mental health is at risk is majorly in those verse number 7 and verse number 8. Number 1, it always protects. Persons that are at risk of mental illness, they need protection. So if love is extended to them, or in that case to us, if we are at the risk of mental fluctuation to poor mental health, love protects and therefore enables the vulnerable person not to slide to that direction. And it always perseveres. Mental health requires a lot of perseverance. If you have had a member of your family or have had an experience with somebody whose mental health has already deteriorated, even as they go for treatment and therapy, it is not instant, it takes time. So for that person to be helped, somebody attending to them must really persevere over years. So love can only help us persevere so that we help those that are at risk of mental health deterioration, and also to us who may also be victims of mental health deterioration. We need perseverance from those that care about us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful contribution. So he talked about the role of love in treatment of mental health or dealing with a loved one with mental health is that the love that you have for them, the kind of support that you give them with the love that you have, is the extra ingredient that helps in their treatment, that will help in them not relapsing, is what will help. It will just be what will help them in their daily lives. And this is what I'm talking about. I think the highest numbers of things today is stress, anxiety, depression, apart from other organic mental illnesses. So for sure, those ones are at an all-time high, just with whatever is happening globally. And I think if we love someone, just asking how was your day, checking up on them, checking up how are you doing, are you following up on treatment, have you sought help for what you're going through, have you sought therapy, are you talking to someone? I think such kind of checking up on based on love is what will help them, it's what will tide them over during that rough patch, or what will help them during that time. Anyone else with any contribution?
I think also we should not run away from accountability and responsibility in love. If we offer support structure for someone with a mental health issue, let's also be accountable and responsible. That's the real love. Let's go back to the Bible. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Then it follows with the accountability part of it, that whosoever believes in him. That's accountability and responsibility. The biggest commandment is love. But what does Jesus say? If you love me, follow my commandment. So as much as love offers great support to those with mental health issues, we be accountable to them. Those who are on, when you need support, advise them to go and seek professional support. That's the biggest love you can give them. Thank you.
And that's a good point. Love is not passive. It's not sasa nakupenda for nimesema, and that means I love you. So it's something that is active. It's something that has actions that follow. It's something that is shown. It's something that you have to do. As someone said, love is a verb. Love is a doing something. Okay? So it's not something that is passively said and then we say, oh, that is for sure love. I love you, but I'm not doing anything, but I have said I love you. So love is something that is active and is accountable and is something that requires you to actually do something about it. So one last comment from my co-facilitator. Yeah, so I think, okay, one very last one from Karen, and then we can close up the session.
Mine is a question. Is there something like toxic love?
A question from Karen. Is there something as toxic love? She can comment, and then we can have two answers to Karen's question.
I'm sorry, maybe you were not looking at this side so much. I think we are few, and few are always ignored, mostly. Okay. Toxic love, or mine? Yeah, mine was, okay, you were talking mental love. Sometimes, when that guy talked about responsibility, I thought about a certain story. I don't know if maybe we can look at it and see who was wrong. A mother raised up children. There were two parents, but at some point, the father felt the woman was now old and it was time for him to get a younger wife, which he did and left the lady with the children, 3 girls. That lady struggled and educated these children, and they succeeded. One of them went to abroad and called the others, and they became very successful, if not very rich. So they told the mother when she was retiring that we'd like you to choose somewhere, a town where you like, we buy for you land and we build for you a house. She did that, and then they said, there's one condition. The children said that, we want you to bring back our father so that you can live together, because we still love him as much as he didn't
do anything for us as we were growing up, maybe because he didn't know what he was doing. You know, when Jesus was on the cross, he said that, forgive these people, they don't know what they're doing, when those people were mistreating him. So these children told the mother, our father did not know what he was doing, so forgive him and live with him, because we really, there were strong pathfinders, you know, children who start from adventurer, pathfinder, like that. So they believed in family and they wanted the parents to live together. Can children make you, parent, have some mental torture by forcing you to live with their father? Can you feel like they are mentally torturing you? Or would you understand, is that kind of a love? Is it a toxic love? Or what kind of love is that these children had for their father, who was not responsible for their upbringing, schooling, and their success? But they felt that because he was their father, they felt that because this guy was their father, they had to do something for him. But anyway, it is a true story, and it ended well. The mother forgave the father. The father walikosana na the other lady, because the other lady also felt the man was too old, and they are now living happily ever after. But do you think the mother at some point was mentally tortured? Or did she maybe try to understand what kind of love these children had for their father? And this is also a warning to parents when you're bringing up your children, as don't try to talk wrongly about the other partner, because children, the love children have for their parents is very different. Especially the love girls have for their father, I think it is unique, because also I used to love my father so much as my mother was very good to me, but I used to love my father so much, although he is late. Lakini ni vizuri kupenda wazazi wote, and it is good to go through this kind of lessons, because we are learning. So we have young parents here in the house. As you're bringing up your children, I want you to remember that girls love their fathers more. I don't know why. I've not done that research, but I've been reading about it. But you can also think on those lines. As you're bringing your children up, tafadhali, tafakari mambo hayo ya watoto kupenda wazazi wao to an extent of having some toxic love.
Yeah, all I can say is, mambo ya watu wawili. Mambo ya watu wawili. I cannot comment, but you have something to comment?
Yeah, I would like to comment about something that incorporating the unconditional. Also, when having true love, and God says so in the Bible, that the ones I love, I chastise them, I correct them, and all those. Unfortunately, we have not touched on the areas where correctional issues needs to be taken and to be very seriously about it. And for this case, I would like to also point out that most people who have also been tormented mentally, seriously, have previously expressed a lot of love for their children, for their husband, or all those that when this child was small, there was a lot of pampering of love. And sometimes the child could go without being punished or being corrected. Or sometimes the husband or the wife goes without being corrected in the right way at the right time. And therefore, these amounts, when there is a lot of it that goes, and so many things have been left without being corrected because you fear about hurting and all that, they amount to being toxic at the end of the day. And therefore, you think that you offered good love and unconditional love at your tender relationship age, but finding that really what you did was destroying yourself. You come to regret later that I wish I had stayed or taken a firm decision or a firm action at such and such a time. And therefore, we really need to look at the way we give out. Even when we talk about unconditional love, expression of conditional love, there is an expectation of something. You love somebody, you expect that if you have unconditional, you expect that he or she will obey you. And if she does not do it back, and you find that your child, you really love that child, you want it to be unconditional, and then you call that child in the morning, unamuita Jane ama nani, anakwenda tu akienda. Is that, will you have expected that ata akienda, because coming back is a condition that when you call, atafanya nini, ata reply. And therefore, we should apply both restrictions and also the other side. And therefore, we should not expect to give out so much of the love without having the checks, without actually seeing that I'm doing this. Mtoto wangu ninamfunza ama namwachilia kwa sababu ya love afanye hii na hii na hii. But the real life outside there is not along that line. Anadeviate. So atakuja kuwa toxic. The love that you will have given will be toxic much later or immediately after. So this kind of love, tunapofanya, we also need to look at how the reciprocation part of it is being done.
Thank you. So loving someone or loving your children doesn't mean you shouldn't correct them. 1 point. Okay, 1 point. 1 point, please.
Love one another.
Amen. So you should love one another. So one comment on toxic love as we wrap up. Hii row nimeambiwa hamja comment. Nominate one person as I get a comment here.
I'm in love with David. And also God loved David. And the reason why I wanted to repeat this is what the one who was caring for Nathan's child who was lame. When David was running away from Solomon, this man mistreated Jonathan's child, and he took some of the land. By the time David came and found that Mephibosheth anatembea miguu mtupu, amechafuka, amekuja anataka kwenda na David mpaka nyumbani. What is happening? Why is it so? Anasema that one from the time he went, he has taken all my things. He didn't care for him. And David didn't want it to hear. That is conditional love. David did not want it to listen to this Jonathan's lame child. He wanted to know how much that man has taken, the land which he has taken. And he called that man with love, and he told him to take care of the Mephibosheth and the land which he had taken. He ordered them to care for that land and give it back to Mephibosheth. If you read the Bible, and he's giving him back, but they should share together. He did not also want to punish this man who was robbing. He gave him the portion. That man was poor, but what he had been caring for the Jonathan's child, he was told, he was given, he was told. Now he was finally, that man also got a share from the property of Jonathan without punishment. That was a conditional love.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot for the contributions. We've talked about all things love, how it relates to mental health. I appreciate the contributions we've had from the church. Because time is far much spent, I will ask Alice to wrap up as we wrap up the session.
Thank you so much, Leah. Thank you so much for participating in the contributions. I believe we have learned a lot. I just want to comment something the story which one of our sisters told us about the husband who left the wife when the children were young, okay? Went and married another wife. And then when the children were older, they actually did what? They connected and reminded that they know their father. So from what we have learned is that true love is forgiving, okay? True love is forgiving. It's not that the children had toxic love towards their father. Yes, we have that aspect of where girls are mostly attracted to their fathers and vice versa. And that is a scientific complex, which we call the Oedipus complex. And it's the way nature is, okay? Yeah. And then about toxic love, our sister asked about, is there something as toxic love? We have looked at the characteristics of conditional love, okay? We said it can give you support, respect, and all that, okay? But we have talked about starting to love ourselves. Starting to love ourselves. But do you know sometimes we can deceive ourselves? Have you ever thought about that? You know, sometimes our thoughts can deceive us. And that is what actually happens with most people who have depression, okay? They think like, if I have a problem, hey, I should not suffer this, okay? Now what I'll do, I'll just commit suicide or something like that. Is that love? Or is that toxic love towards self? It's toxic love. So I caution you that not every thought that you think is correct, okay? Sometimes your thoughts can deceive you, and this is quite scientific. When I was a young girl and I was just in my basic training, I did a course which was called Philosophy and Society. And actually that is when I learned that your own thoughts can deceive you, and it's scientific, okay? Sometimes, you know, when you have a problem or when you are depressed and you are not able to cope, sometimes you now try to actually look for ways of now condemning, okay? Looking at the toxic ways of doing bad things to yourself or harming others. So what we should know that it's not someone else who will give you toxic love. You can actually give yourself toxic love. And I like in the introduction, someone talked about everything being in the mind, that it's all in the mind. And we have wrapped it up with talking about the role of love in mental health. So that love begins with self-love, okay? Not thinking negatively about yourself and then extending it to others. So, in summary, it's that actually love, okay? When you get love and when you love yourself, this has been shown to even improve on physical health. Actually, if you find someone who has a lot of support from family, loved, has many friends, okay? It's normally, they manage, even if they have a blood pressure, even if they have chronic conditions, they manage them better. They manage them better. We have a condition which we normally call somatization, okay? You know, it normally happens in these young girls, the ones who are in schools. There's a condition we call hysteria, especially when they don't get what they want, okay? And they cannot express it, and they see that they are not going to get it. What they normally do is they somatize, okay? The problem is in their mind. But then they can say, hey, my hand cannot move, okay? We have seen them. I believe you have seen them in the hospital, yeah? And we know what we normally do to them. So sometimes it can happen in mass, even in schools. I don't know the teachers who are here, especially these primary school teachers, secondary school teachers. You have seen that when they exhibit the same symptoms, okay? Like all of them, they are saying, maybe we cannot even open our eyes, okay? Now the eyes, we cannot see, okay? So all of them are brought like that. We call that mass hysteria. They come to the hospital, okay? And then most of the time we'll tell you, walimu mkae huko nje, okay? Because you don't have to tell them that the eyes have up. The eyes, there is no problem in the eyes. The problem is where? In the mind. But in this condition, you're not supposed to tell them that, hey, the problem, you don't have a problem, just open your eyes. No, you take them privately to the room, okay? And then talk to them, what is the problem? They'll tell you the problem, blah, blah, blah. And then you You give them something. What do you normally give?
For hysteria.
Yes, what do you normally do?
Some put spirit, but we just observe.
Sometimes you just pretend that you are giving them medications because you have to acknowledge that there is a problem. Is there a problem or there is no problem? There is a problem because people think that a problem is only physical. And I believe our sister Mbeche, okay? You have seen the Mbeche, the beautiful lady here who are with in Milimani for a long time. I think you dealt with such cases so much. So you don't have to tell these young girls that there is no problem. Okay? And we are very cautious in the hospitals. We don't even tell the teachers that there is no problem because we know next. Watawaambia nyinyi msilete hizo vitu yenye mlikuwa mnafanya. You have to acknowledge that there is a problem. So that means that we are not giving priority to mental health. Okay? And mental health can actually affect physical health. And everything is always in the mind. So today we have looked at love, relationships, and mental health. And you can see, we have looked at those stories from the Bible, okay? And you have seen that we have to persist. We have to be persistent with our friends. We have to be persistent with the family, even if they pretend they are well, okay? And then, of course, we have looked at the characteristics of true love, which we have said that it's unconditional and that it's powerful. And in conclusion, remember always that Jesus showed us the greatest love, okay? Showed us the greatest love by dying on the cross because of our sins, okay? And then, despite the fact that Jesus tells us that if we sin, the punishment is death, okay? But he still loves us because he died for us. So this evening, I want to call upon you to always ensure that, first of all, you love yourself, okay? You don't deceive yourself. When you have a discussion with yourself, so you normally have discussions with yourselves? Be very, very positive. Otherwise, everything is about you. Give yourself self-love, then you can extend it to the others. The story of the Good Samaritan, okay? The story of the Good Samaritan. You can see the story of the Good Samaritan. What does it tell us? When you read the Bible, it says that love your neighbor as you love yourself. Can you love your neighbor if you don't love yourself? Useme sasa mimi nakaa sura mbaya, sijui I'm like this and that. But you say, you look good. You know there are people who tell people, wewe unakaa tu vizuri. But then, unajua mimi, you see that is all those things will manifest in your mind. Okay? Accept yourself as you are. And that is the beginning of good mental health. Love yourself and extend the same love to others. It's my prayer that you're going to love yourselves and extend the same love to others. May God bless you all as we stand for the song. When I come to the river, I don't know whether they're going to project it. The second stanza. Oh. I don't know whether it's possible to project the song. Then we'll do the second stanza. And then, we can stand. We can start and then we can catch it up with it. We can start from the first stanza, then we can look at the second stanza. When I come to the river at the ending of day, when the last winds of sorrows are blown, there'll be somebody waiting to show me the way. I won't have to cross Jordan alone. I won't have to cross Jordan alone. Jesus died for my sins to atone. When the darkness I see, he'll be waiting for me. I won't have to cross Jordan alone. I won't have to cross Jordan alone. Jesus died for my sins to atone.
When the darkness I see,
he'll be waiting for me. I won't have to cross Jordan alone.
Let's bow down for a word of prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank you this day. We thank you for being with us, for guiding us. We thank you for all that we've been able to learn the whole day, for the word that you've given to us. We pray that we may put it in our hearts, that we may practice it, that we may hold dear to it, that it may influence our lives each day. It may influence ourselves, it may influence our families and all the people that we interact, that we may learn to love, we may learn to have true love in our relationships. We may learn to have unconditional love in our relationships, oh Lord. And may we learn to live by that commandment and see it transform our lives. We thank you for all the families represented here. May you bless each and every one of them. May you bless the fathers and the mothers and the children who are represented here. May you protect them from all harm, from all sickness, give them good health. May you bless their plans, bless their goals, bless their daily workings, O Lord, that in the work of our hands we may be able to succeed, O Lord. We thank you for this country, we thank you for our church, we thank you for this country, for the leadership, both in the church and in the country. I'd like to pray for you to give them wisdom in each and every decision that they're making, O Lord. May it be influenced by you. May you give them the knowledge, the wisdom. May they do it all with the integrity that comes from you, O Lord. We'd like for you to look into our hearts for our wants and our needs. May you grant it to us according to your will, O Lord. Forgive us our sins, guide us in your right path. As we break for the evening, we'd like to ask you to protect us and guide us as we go back to our homes and as we close the Sabbath. May you be with us in each and everything we do. We pray all this, trusting and believing in your holy name.